Truck drivers, what's a creepy story you've got from the middle of nowhere? Trucker here. I think the best creepy thing that ever happened to me was I was heading from Tucson, Arizona up into Salt Lake City, Utah. Well, this was a few years ago and the main highway had been taken out in a flash flood, was under construction, so I had to take a weird detour through the mountains in lower Utah. Well, it was getting late and I was getting tired, so I pulled off onto the shoulder and went to sleep in my bunk. Now this was in the middle of nowhere, closest town was like 40 miles away, so it is complete pitch black outside once I turn the lights off. Anyway, around 4 a.m. I wake up because I'm hearing something messing with my truck, like playing with the air and power cables between my cab and the trailer, which is literally 6 inches from where my head is at but on the outside of the cab. Then I feel something climb onto the landing that's on the back of my truck and it shakes my whole truck, so I'm guessing something around 200 to 300 pounds was climbing around back there. I'm thinking like a mountain lion or a bear. At this point I'm wide the F awake and I want to get this thing away from me, so I slam my hand into my cab wall trying to scare whatever is out there, slam hard enough to really make it loud. I then hear someone, a male, scream bloody murder and I hear them fall off the back of my truck. I then hear about 15 other people all around my truck yelling. I climb up front, turn on my lights and illuminate a squad of Army reserves doing their midnight ruck march and capture drills. Turns out these guys were supposed to go find an abandoned truck and secure it for their midnight drills. That truck was 3 miles back down the road. They were not expecting me to be sleeping there, and thought I was part of the drill. I'm ex-military, so after explaining I was not part of their test and legit was just there out of coincidence, we laughed it off. They had to radio to their CO and tell him I was there and not have the other squads bother me. Edit. Wow, thank you for the awards and the likes, never had this many before. Lamau, imagine the look of horror on their faces when the abandoned truck has something inside it. That's hilarious but also scary, lol. Not sure if this story is creepy, but it's definitely scary. My father was a truck driver in East Africa in the 80s and early 90s. During the years leading up to the Rwandan genocide, my father was passing through Rwanda. He reached a checkpoint and was forcibly removed from his truck at gunpoint. Apparently he looked like he belonged to the Tutsi tribe and they put him in a cage with other Tutsi prisoners. He tried communicating that he isn't Rwandan, but no one spoke the same language as him. Every night they would take about 5 people from the cage and slaughter them in front of him. After the 3rd night, he saw a man that spoke a little bit of Swahili, which my dad spoke, and told him that he's not Rwandan and showed him his ID. Somehow that guy got him out and he was handed the keys to his truck and was on his way. Jesus. I'm so glad your dad survived, but my heart breaks for the others. I bet he had some major trauma from seeing people killed in front of him. Not up, but trauma from seeing people die does affect people differently. Big sad here. Skip for no sad faces while reading. I witnessed 2 kids murdered in the car in front of me when my mom dropped my brother off at the school. Doors were locked. Back in the day it was okay to leave a kid in a car with AC, but a man who lost his daughters in a custody battle walked up to the car in front of me and shot both of them through the head. 5 shots. I saw it all. I saw him run across the street to the parking lot and blow his brains out. It's a major memory that I can't get out of my head. I hear the gunshots, the one scream before it ended, the glass breaking. I even effing remember him closing the car door before running 20 feet and then watching him twitch before my mom and my brother's teacher bolted through the front door to get me and everyone else inside. No bigger sad here. It's a memory that'll never escape me. The best thing I can do is focus on other things like friends and what's happening around me. It's such a repressed memory that I only ever think of it if someone directly asks me if I've seen someone die before. My heart sinks, and I'm flushed with a cold chill and nauseated. Every single time. It's okay though, great friends, and lots to keep me busy, so I don't ever think about it anymore. Well, this thread is the first time in about 2 years I thought about it, so if you'll excuse me I'll exit this thread now, but if you have something troubling you talk to people about it, or other things if you need to not think about it. I had to go to counseling for several months afterwards. I managed to pull through decently though. Don't be afraid to ask anyone for help if you need to, there is no shame, and if you have things that trouble you and you need to speak to someone, feel free to load up my inbox. I'll talk to anyone who needs it. Edit. I appreciate the awards guys and gals, but please, unless you're spending free coins, please don't waste your money on me. I really appreciate the warm responses, but there is no need. If you insist on spending money on me, can I direct you to help people instead with my web link? That reminds me of an ISIS video I saw where they were pulling trucks over and demanding the drivers recite Sunni Quran verses. If the drivers were Shia and didn't know them, they would just line them up and shoot them. The world can be a horrible place sometimes. Glad your dad made it out of that one. People are pointing out there is only one Quran. I'm obviously not a Muslim, so I don't know any better, but they were asking them to recite something that was interpreted differently between Sunnis and Shias. Don't need everyone pointing out the semantics, they were buttholes either way. Driving through an abandoned section of Baltimore at 3 in the morning, my CB radio turned itself on and crackled for a bit. Out of nowhere, some voice over the radio said in a deep southern drawl, "I am not got no panties on." I could see up and down the interstate for miles and saw not one set of headlights. That was Fred. He just wanted you to know he didn't have no panties on. Honestly, though, I have no idea why or when that started, but I've heard it for over 26 years. Leave the CB on, and you will hear it at least once a day. Always a southern drawl, and always said in a harsh whisper. I know it's a thing, and I've heard it multiple times before and since. Now, the fact that there was no one around us what creeped me out. What do you mean by, it's a thing? Like a joke or some creep code? I also need answers. Oh boy, did I go down the Google hole with this one. Apparently there was an older guy in Oklahoma City who went by the handle Bam Bam on CB radio channel 19, and had a recording of the I am not got no panties on that would play every so often on his ridiculously, illegally overpowered CB radio setup. Later he had another creepy recording he'd play. He was infamous amongst truckers and amateur radio operators across the country, because when atmospheric conditions were right, his signal would skip halfway around the country. His name was Klaus Kramer, and he got busted by the FCC at least twice, and was fined $10,000. This was around 2001, and the docs of his FCC trouble are public. Edit. What I forgot to add was that it became a stupid in joke amongst bored truckers, or those trying to annoy, so the phrase lives on even though Klaus's original hijinks have been squashed. Money well spent. By far the funniest. Driving through rural NM, beastie area with the crazy melted rock look. No plants or anything, just rock and sand. Monsoon time, raining cats and dogs just pouring so hard you could barely see going 20 miles per hour. Thunder and lightning just rocking the car. Sometimes turning into hail and pounding you. Just a nasty storm. Came around a corner, and the whole countryside legit on fire. Like 20 tall flames, hundreds of yards in all directions while pouring rain at dusk. Just rocks and dirt wildly on fire in the pouring rain. Just slowly drove on, was totally freaky and surreal. Honestly thought I may have hallucinated it. Check the news, a propane truck slid off the road going way too fast and apparently busted open pretty violently and lit on fire. Never saw the truck, must have been behind something. Felt a bit bad after about not stopping. Don't feel bad. I would not stop for flames in a rainstorm, especially in Skinwalker country. Besides, there really isn't much you could have done, I bet. In what country? A good buddy of mine is a long-haul trucker for my company. A few months ago, he woke up in a parking lot surrounded by police. Some dude had gotten shot and dumped 15 feet from his truck. Was he a suspect afterwards? No. It sounded like the police already had a good idea of what happened. He gave a statement saying that he saw nothing. The guy was killed elsewhere and dumped in the parking lot by his truck. That's good he didn't get arrested or anything. My dad drove a truck between Edinburgh and London and tells this story often. He was driving down the motorway and looked to his right, saw a woman with a Miss Trunchbull bun, as he describes it, staring at him with a terrified expression from a car next to him. Before he really knows how to react, the car pulls off at the next exit and my dad, although shaken, carries on. About half an hour later, a different car with a different driver pulls alongside my dad, with the same woman in the passenger seat, with the same expression on her face. My dad thinks F this and plans to pull into the next services to report as even if it's nothing, misunderstanding, better to be safe than sorry, right? Anyway, the car disappears before he can get any details, plates etc., and he thinks there is no point calling the police with no details, so he carries on driving. Literally about 4 hours later, Almost in London, yet another car pulls alongside him with the same woman, same mistrunchable hair, and same terrified expression, except this time she appears to be screaming at my dad through the window, so my dad pulls over into a lay-by and calls the police. Apparently they have received 3 other calls about the same woman, car in the same area in the last few minutes. It is unfortunately anticlimactic as he never heard anything more about it, but he didn't see her again, and although he kept an eye on the news, didn't see anything about it. Hopefully it's just a giant coincidence. Who knows? The repeating nature of this one reminds me of one weird story back when I was in high school. It was summer and my dad's birthday, so we drove to a casino 2 hours away to watch a boxing match with my uncle. It finishes and we drive back the same night. We're nearing a canyon with no phone reception, so we call my mom and tell her we'll be home soon. Canyon usually takes about 30 minutes with no traffic. It's around midnight. So we enter the canyon and we're all pretty tired. To keep us talking, we start telling stories, most of them creepy stories. This goes on for a while and it feels like time is passing in a haze. We pass this butte in the canyon and suddenly I get déjà vu. I'm convinced we already passed that before. All of us have driven this canyon 100 times and know the layout. We keep talking, and then we pass the same butte again. This time I pointed out and my dad and uncle noticed the time. It's 1 a.m., and we're still not home. So we all start to get a bit freaked out. We stop talking and just watch the road slowly pass by. Now that we're paying attention though, time seems to catch up. We exit the canyon around 1:15 a.m. and call my mom, who is freaked out she hadn't heard from us. We still to this day have no idea where that extra 45 minutes or so went. Dang, it's way too late for me to be reading creepy stuff like this. Time gets fuzzy in the soft places. Was that Stephen King? Edit. I swear I've heard this before, or at least something very close, but Google isn't helping. Thanks for the kidneys. This is freaking terrifying. Guess I didn't need to sleep tonight. Have you checked the map and see if there's any possible and reasonable way you guys did that loop? Most reasonably explanation is my dad was driving slower because we were tired, and telling stories and passing the same butte was a hallucination. But all 3 of us noticed it, and it's hard to believe we were driving that slowly. You reminded me of something that happened to my ex and I. We were driving through a canyon as well that's pretty deserted. We noted it was getting late and should speed up to get home as it was 9:15, I remember it exactly, so we're driving, talking, laughing about stuff. What seemed like half an hour later, we're still a good 10 miles away from getting out of the canyon, so I asked for the time and she just got quiet and said wait. It's still 9:15. We got the strangest chills I've personally ever had and we were just downright speechless. I could tell she was freaking out, so I said let's talk about it later and changed the subject. Time resumed after that. We could never make sense of what the hell happened up there. It was multiple clocks telling us 9:15. You could wager the phones could have lost signal and stuck to that time, but my car's clock is analog and manually set. Time resumed after that. Oh man, that's exactly what it felt like. Like we were in a crease, and once we all noticed the wonkiness, things went back to normal. Random conspiracy theory: you all were tired and fell asleep and crashed during the stories, but the universe gave you a reset and started you at an earlier spot to drive the canyon again. You had to be conscious and aware to actually pass to the next point. This has got to be the creepiest story here, damn. Thank you for watching. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube. And share them with your friends. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. We welcome your comments below. Another of our videos will begin shortly.